The grand conference hall of Nexus Prime gleamed with the polished elegance that only centuries of interstellar diplomacy could cultivate. Crystalline chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings that mimicked the stellar patterns of the Orion Arm, casting prismatic light across the assembled dignitaries. This was the heart of the Galactic Alliance, where species from 1,000 worlds gathered to negotiate the delicate balance of cosmic power. Commander Lana Byrne stood at rigid attention behind Ambassador Marcus Lee. Her midnight blue Earthfleet uniform, a stark contrast to the flowing, ornate attire of the other delegates. Her weathered hands, calloused from years of engineering work rather than diplomatic posturing, were clasped firmly behind her back. Her eyes, sharp and analytical, surveyed the chamber with the precision of the targeting systems she had designed. "The Earth delegation requests permission to address the Assembly," announced the Chamber Herald, a tall Valorian with skin like polished amber. Ambassador Lee stepped forward, his silver-streaked hair and dignified bearing lending him the gravitas needed for this crucial moment. Behind him, Admiral Helena Cruz nodded almost imperceptibly to Commander Byrne. The signal was clear. Everything hinged on this presentation. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Alliance," Lee began, his voice resonating with practiced confidence. "Earth stands before you today, not merely as a newly admitted member of this grand coalition, but as a partner offering meaningful contributions to our collective security." A murmur rippled through the assembly. Humans were newcomers to the interstellar community, having achieved stable warp technology barely 50 years ago. Many species present had been traversing the stars when humans were still crafting tools from stone. "We present to this council our prototype defensive vessel, the Aurora," Lee continued, activating a holographic display in the center of the chamber. The image of a sleek yet sturdy warship materialized, rotating slowly to reveal its unconventional design. Engineered with quantum armored plating, kinetic photon hybrid weaponry, and our proprietary adaptive AI systems, the Aurora represents Earth's commitment to Alliance security. Supreme Admiral Zarthok, the military commander of the Zarthian Empire, rose from his seat. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, his reptilian features were accentuated by ceremonial battle scars that crisscrossed his scaled face. The Zarthians controlled nearly a third of Alliance territory, their military might unquestioned for centuries. "Ambassador," Zarthok's voice rumbled with barely contained disdain. "Surely you jest. This vessel appears to have been designed by primitives playing at starfaring." His clawed finger pointed accusingly at the hologram. "That hull configuration violates every principle of advanced defensive architecture. The propulsion array is laughably exposed." Laughter rippled through the chamber as other delegates, particularly the Valorians, joined in the mockery. "The weapon systems," continued a Valorian representative, "are positioned as though your engineers learned shipbuilding from children's illustrations. This prototype is nothing but theater on the cosmic stage." Commander Byrne felt her jaw tighten, muscles clenching against the urge to respond. The Aurora wasn't just a ship to her. It represented 3 years of sleepless nights, breakthrough innovations, and solutions that the arrogant Alliance races were too set in their ways to even consider. Ambassador Lee remained unperturbed. "The Council is entitled to its assessment. Earth welcomes scrutiny of our contributions." "Scrutiny implies there is something worth examining," Zarthok replied, triggering another wave of laughter. "I move that Earth's petition for increased patrol responsibilities be denied. They clearly lack the technological sophistication required for frontline defense." The vote was swift and decisive. Earth's petition was rejected by an overwhelming majority. As the delegation retreated from the chamber, Admiral Cruz pulled Commander Byrne aside. "The Aurora is cleared for a patrol route along the Zarthian territory border," Cruz informed her, voice low and determined. "This is your chance, Commander. Show them what your ship can do." Byrne's eyes narrowed with newfound resolve. Those who dare mock Earth shall suffer the consequences. The Aurora hung in the void like a predator, sizing up its territory. From the central command chair, Commander Lana Byrne surveyed her bridge crew with quiet pride. Each officer represented the finest Earth had to offer. Brilliant minds who had dared to think differently, to challenge the established paradigms of interstellar engineering. "Status report," she ordered, her voice carrying the same calm authority that had guided the Aurora from theoretical design to revolutionary prototype. Lieutenant Commander Tarek Voss, the ship's chief helmsman, responded first. "Navigation systems optimal. Commander, we're maintaining position at the edge of the Kepler Gamma Zone, exactly 12 parsecs from the nearest Zarthian outpost." "Weapons?" Byrne inquired. Major Hana Kim looked up from her console, her fingers still dancing across the kinetic targeting array. "All systems green. Kinetic photon hybrid munitions loaded and calibrated. Firing solutions computing in real time." Chief Engineer Ray Zhang's voice came through the comm system from the engine room. "Quantum armor integrity at 100%. Heat sinks clear. Fusion core stable. She's running beautifully, Commander." Dr. Elisa Morgan, the brilliant physicist responsible for the ship's controversial wave disruptor technology, offered her report last. "Adaptive AI is fully integrated with all ship systems. Learning algorithms are processing at 300% efficiency compared to simulations. The wave disruptor is stable, for now." Byrne nodded, acknowledging the slight hesitation in Morgan's voice. The wave disruptor was the most experimental of Aurora's innovations, a quantum device capable of destabilizing enemy control systems through subspace interference. In theory, it could render even the most advanced warship temporarily helpless. In practice, it remained untested beyond laboratory conditions. "Begin standard patrol sequence," Byrne ordered. "Maintain low emissions profile." The Aurora accelerated smoothly, its revolutionary propulsion system leaving barely a ripple in the subspace field. Another innovation the Zarthians had mocked as primitive, despite its superior efficiency. "Commander," Lieutenant Omar Reyes called from the communication station. "I'm detecting unusual activity in the Zarthian comm network. Multiple encrypted transmissions converging on this sector." Byrne swiveled her chair toward the intelligence officer. "Analysis?" Reyes' dark eyes narrowed as he studied the patterns. "They're using a cascade encryption we've seen before in their military communications. I'm picking up coordinates being passed." "Wait." He looked up, concern etched on his features. "Commander, I believe they're setting up an ambush. These transmission patterns match known Zarthian fleet movement protocols." "Can you determine their rallying point?" Byrne asked, already formulating counter-strategies. "Working on it," Reyes replied, his fingers flying across his console. "The encryption is complex, but there's a pattern leak in their quantum signature. I need maybe 20 minutes. "You have 10, Byrne responded, then activated the ship-wide comm. "All senior officers to the tactical room immediately." The tactical room was austere compared to the luxurious war chambers of Zarthian vessels. Instead of ornate holographic tables and ceremonial weapons displays, the Aurora featured a simple rectangular table surrounded by high-backed chairs. What it lacked in ostentation, it made up for in functionality. As her officers filed in, Byrne activated the central display. "Intelligence suggests the Zarthians are planning an ambush. Lieutenant Reyes will brief us on what we know." Reyes stood, projecting a star chart onto the main display. "Based on transmission intercepts, a Zarthian battle group is assembling here, in orbit around Xerax." He highlighted a planet near the border of their patrol route. "We're detecting at least 10 capital ships, possibly more." 10 capital ships?" Lieutenant Commander Voss repeated, unable to hide his alarm. "Commander, the Aurora is impressive, but we're still just one prototype vessel. We can't possibly—" "We're not running," Byrne interrupted, her voice steel. This is exactly the opportunity we've been waiting for. Dr. Morgan leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing, Commander? A tight smile formed on Burns' lips. They expect us to follow our patrol route and wander into their trap. What if, instead, we appear directly in the center of their formation? Silence fell over the room as the officers processed the audacity of the suggestion. That's suicide, Chief Engineer Zhang finally said. Even with our quantum armor, we can't withstand concentrated fire from 10 Zarthian warships. We won't have to, Byrne replied, enlarging the tactical display. Major Kim, explain the kinetic strike capabilities against Zarthian shields. Kim stood, her posture rigid with military precision. Zarthian defensive systems are optimized against energy weapons, plasma, laser, photon. Their shields disperse energy attacks with remarkable efficiency. She manipulated the display to show a simulation. However, our kinetic photon hybrid rounds are primarily physical projectiles accelerated to near relativistic speeds, with a photon payload that detonates only after penetrating the shield. Their defenses aren't configured to stop physical objects moving that fast. And Dr. Morgan, Byrne continued, the wave disruptor? Morgan hesitated. In theory, a properly calibrated quantum wave could temporarily destabilize their control systems. Their ships use a unified command architecture, efficient, but vulnerable to cascade failures if the primary nodes are compromised. In theory? Zhang questioned. We've never field-tested it against actual Zarthian systems, Morgan admitted. The closest we've come is simulations based on outdated Zarthian tech we acquired through intelligence channels. Byrne's expression remained resolute. We're going to execute a direct materialization in the center of their formation. We'll fire kinetic rounds the moment we arrive, targeting their command ships first. Simultaneously, we'll activate the wave disruptor at full capacity. Commander, Voss objected. Materializing directly in a hostile formation goes against every tactical doctrine in the book. Exactly, Byrne replied. Which is precisely why they won't expect it. The Zarthians mock our designs because they don't understand them. They think in terms of brute force and overwhelming firepower. We think differently. She looked around the table, meeting each officer's gaze. That is our advantage. The officers exchanged glances, doubt warring with determination on their faces. Prepare your departments, Byrne ordered. We move in 6 hours. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Ray Zhang supervised the final calibrations of the quantum armor. The innovative defensive system didn't merely deflect or absorb incoming energy. It redistributed it through a crystalline matrix that could, in theory, use enemy fire to strengthen its own integrity. Redistribution pathways clear, reported his assistant. Heat sinks at optimal capacity. Zhang nodded, but concern creased his brow. The system's never been tested against concentrated Zarthian plasma cannons. If multiple hits land in the same section before the redistribution can complete, the armor could superheat and compromise structural integrity. His assistant finished. Exactly. Zhang tapped his console, bringing up a modified configuration. We'll need to manually adjust the flow rates during battle. It's not ideal, but it's our best option. Meanwhile, in the weapons bay, Major Hana Kim was performing final checks on the kinetic photon hybrid munitions. Each projectile was a marvel of engineering. A dense, specially alloyed slug designed to puncture energy shields, followed by a quantum-triggered photon charge that would detonate only after penetration. Load verification complete, she announced to her team. All tubes show green. Targeting systems calibrated. One of her officers approached with a data pad. Major, I've run the calculations again. With our current payload, we have enough rounds for approximately 3 minutes of sustained fire against multiple capital ships. Kim's expression hardened. Then we make every shot count. In the AI core, Dr. Elisa Morgan worked feverishly to finalize the wave disruptor's parameters. The device was her brainchild, A quantum weapon that attacked not the physical structure of enemy vessels, but the very systems that controlled them. "System test complete," reported her assistant. "Quantum coherence stable at 94%. Morgan frowned. "Not good enough. We need at least 97% for reliable field deployment. Recalibrate the emitter array." As she worked, Morgan couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The wave disruptor functioned by creating a precisely modulated quantum field that could interfere with the operational frequencies of target systems. If the calibration was even slightly off, or if the Zarthians had significantly updated their control architectures. "Doctor," her assistant interrupted her thoughts, "we've achieved 98% coherence." Morgan nodded, relief washing over her. "Lock those settings and initiate final diagnostic sequence. This has to work perfectly." On the bridge, Lieutenant Omar Reyes continued monitoring Zarthian communications. What he found sent him hurrying to Commander Burns' ready room. "Commander," he reported, "I've intercepted additional transmissions. The Zarthians have placed scout vessels along our patrol route. They're capturing images of the Aurora and transmitting them throughout their fleet. He hesitated. "Go on, Lieutenant," Byrne encouraged. "They're mocking us, sir, sharing images of our ship with derisive comments about Earth's primitive attempt at warship design." A cold smile touched Byrne's lips. "Perfect. Let them underestimate us. That's an order." As the final hour approached, Lieutenant Commander Voss approached Byrne on the bridge. "Commander," he said quietly, "I need to express my concerns about this strategy. Flying directly into the center of a hostile formation contradicts every tactical principle I've ever learned." Byrne regarded him steadily. "The Zarthians have existed for millennia, Commander Voss. In that time, they've developed formidable defenses against every conventional attack vector, but they've also grown predictable. They expect us to follow the same rules of engagement they've mastered." She gestured to the view screen, showing the Aurora's unconventional design. This ship wasn't built to play by their rules. It was built to change the game entirely. Voss considered her words, then nodded slowly. "I understand, Commander, and I'll execute your orders to the best of my ability." "That's all I ask," Byrne replied. "Now, take us to battle stations. It's time to show the Zarthians exactly what Earth's primitive technology can do." Throughout the Aurora, alert klaxons sounded as the crew prepared for battle. Weapon systems powered up, shields strengthened, and the quantum drive hummed with gathering energy. In her command chair, Commander Byrne opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the commander. Today, we face an enemy that believes themselves superior in every way. They've mocked our ship, our technology, and our very presence in their space. Today, we prove them wrong." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We are outnumbered and, by conventional metrics, outgunned. But the Aurora wasn't built to fight conventional battles. Trust your training. Trust your shipmates. Trust this vessel. Burn out." She nodded to Lieutenant Commander Voss. "Set course for the coordinates. Prepare for direct materialization." The stars stretched and blurred as the Aurora entered slipspace. The revolutionary propulsion system that had been derided as archaic by Zarthian engineers, now carrying them toward destiny at speeds that would have impressed even their critics, had they known the true capabilities of Earth's prototype. In orbit around the ringed gas giant Xerax, Supreme Admiral Zarthok stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Invincible Dominion. Around him, the pride of the Zarthian fleet, 10 massive warships, each capable of reducing a small moon to rubble, maintained perfect formation. "Status of the Earth vessel?" he demanded. His second-in-command consulted a holographic display. "Still following the patrol route, Admiral. They should reach our position in approximately 40 minutes. Zarthok's scaled lips curled into what passed for a smile among his species. "Excellent. Prepare to spring the trap. I want that primitive vessel captured intact. Emperor Valaris will be amused to see their pitiful attempt at military technology." "Sir," interrupted a sensor officer, "we're detecting unusual energy readings." The officer never finished his sentence. In a flash of brilliant light, the aurora materialized directly in the center of the Zarthian formation, a tactical impossibility according to conventional wisdom. For a crucial moment, the Zarthian fleet froze in confusion. This was not how battles began. This violated every principle of space combat they had established over millennia. Commander Byrne seized the advantage instantly. "Fire all weapons! Activate wave disruptor!" Major Kim's fingers danced across her console, unleashing the first salvo of kinetic photon hybrid rounds. The weapons streaked toward the nearest Zarthian vessels, moving so fast they appeared as mere flashes of light to the naked eye. The effect was immediate and devastating. The physical projectiles passed through the energy shields as if they weren't there, punching neat holes in the Zarthian hulls before the photon charges detonated inside. 3 enemy vessels shuddered as internal explosions bloomed within their armored shells. "Wave disruptor at full power," Dr. Morgan called from her station, her voice tight with concentration as she monitored the quantum readings. "Field stabilizing, coherence at 98%, deploying now." An invisible wave of quantum disruption emanated from the aurora, washing over the Zarthian fleet. Unlike conventional weapons, there was no visible beam, no explosion, no immediate sign of its effect, until, one by one, the lights on the Zarthian warships began to flicker and die. On the bridge of the Invincible Dominion, chaos erupted as systems failed in cascading sequence. "What's happening?" Zarthok roared, as emergency lighting bathed the command deck in blood red. "Some kind of system-wide failure," his second reported frantically. "Weapons offline, shields collapsing, propulsion unresponsive." "Impossible!" Zarthok slammed his fist into a console. "No weapon can penetrate our cybernetic defenses." But the evidence was undeniable. Throughout his fleet, the same pattern repeated. Sophisticated systems rendered useless. Mighty warships reduced to drifting hulks. Back on the Aurora, Commander Byrne watched with grim satisfaction as the Zarthian fleet fell into disarray. "Wave disruptor functioning beyond expected parameters," Dr. Morgan reported, surprise evident in her voice. "Their systems are more vulnerable than we anticipated." "Maintain disruption field," Byrne ordered. "Major Kim, target their remaining operational vessels. Focus on weapon emplacements and propulsion systems." Another salvo of kinetic photon rounds streaked from the Aurora, striking with surgical precision. 2 more Zarthian ships lost power, their engines flickering out like dying stars. "Commander," Chief Engineer Zhang called from engineering. "Quantum armor holding at 87% integrity. Redistributing energy from impact points." "Incoming!" shouted Lieutenant Commander Voss. 3 Zarthian vessels still have partial weapons capability." Streaks of blinding plasma fire lanced toward the Aurora, the desperate counterattack of a wounded predator. "Brace for impact," Byrne commanded, gripping her chair as the ship shuddered under the assault. The quantum armor glowed brilliantly as it absorbed and redistributed the energy. The innovative technology performing exactly as designed, transforming enemy fire into reinforcement for its own structure. "Armor integrity holding at 79%, Zhang reported, his voice strained but confident. "Redistribution pathways operating within parameters." Sir," Lieutenant Reyes called from his station. "I'm detecting unusual activity from Zarthian vessel Z-113. Internal power fluctuations consistent with a self-destruct sequence." Byrne's eyes narrowed. "Target that vessel specifically. Major Kim, focus disruptor waves on their core. If they're trying to go out with a bang, I want that bang minimized." The Aurora pivoted smoothly, bringing its main weapons to bear on the desperate Zarthian ship. Before the enemy vessel could detonate, a precision strike from the kinetic weapons disabled its power core, leaving it drifting harmlessly. For 15 intense minutes, the battle raged on. The Aurora danced through the Zarthian formation, its unconventional design and revolutionary technology, confounding the enemy's attempts to mount an effective defense. With each passing moment, more Zarthian ships fell silent, their mighty weapons rendered useless by Dr. Morgan's wave disruptor. "Zarthian flagship is attempting to retreat," Voss reported, unable to keep a note of triumph from his voice. Byrne nodded. "Let them go. We've made our point." As the invincible Dominion limped away, its once proud silhouette now scarred and darkened, Byrne opened a communication channel. "Supreme Admiral Zarthok," she transmitted, her voice level and controlled. "This is Commander Lana Byrne of the Earth vessel Aurora. Consider this a demonstration of what happens to those who underestimate Earth's capabilities. Perhaps in the future, you'll think twice before mocking what you do not understand." There was no response, but none was needed. The message had been delivered more effectively than words ever could. "Set course back to Nexus Prime," Byrne ordered. "Standard speed. I want everyone in the Alliance to have plenty of time to hear what happened here today." As the Aurora departed, it left behind a graveyard of Zarthian warships, not destroyed, but disabled and humiliated, drifting silently in the void. Supreme Admiral Zarthok watched from his crippled flagship, scales flushed with rage and humiliation. "This is not over," he hissed to his second-in-command. "Prepare a report for Emperor Valaris. The humans have made a powerful enemy today." Little did he know that the defeat would have consequences far beyond his personal humiliation. Throughout Zarthian-controlled space, the news spread like wildfire. The mighty Zarthian fleet, bested by a single Earth vessel. On dozens of subjugated worlds, populations that had lived under Zarthian domination for generations began to whisper of resistance. If Earth could stand against the Zarthians, perhaps they could too. The rebellion began on Nix 9, a mining colony in the outer reaches of Zarthian space. The workers, emboldened by news of the Aurora's victory, rose up against their overseers. Similar uprisings followed on Helios Prime, Taurus Station, and a dozen other Zarthian-controlled worlds. Emperor Valaris, receiving reports of the spreading unrest, summoned his advisors in fury. "One ship," he raged, his ceremonial armor clattering as he paced. "One primitive Earth vessel has undermined centuries of Zarthian dominance in a single day. The damage to our reputation is significant," his chief strategist admitted. "Reports indicate that several client worlds are already refusing to pay tribute. Others are demanding renegotiation of their status within the Empire." "Find that ship," Valaris ordered. "Find its crew. I want them brought before me in chains." But the Aurora was already beyond his reach, returning triumphantly to Nexus Prime with news of its victory. The diplomatic chamber that had witnessed Earth's humiliation now buzzed with excitement as the Aurora docked at the station. Ambassador Lee, Admiral Cruz, and Commander Byrne were summoned to an emergency session of the Supreme Council. This time, as they entered the chamber, the mockery and dismissive glances were replaced with looks of curiosity, respect, and in some cases, thinly veiled fear. "The Council recognizes the Earth delegation," announced the Valorian herald, his earlier condescension notably absent. Ambassador Lee stepped forward, flanked by Admiral Cruz and Commander Byrne. "Esteemed representatives," he began, "recent events have demonstrated Earth's commitment to Alliance security and our technological capabilities. We come before you not to boast of victory, but to reaffirm our desire for peaceful cooperation among all species." A representative of the Arthurian Collective, one of the oldest species in the Alliance, rose to speak. "The Council has received reports of the encounter between the Earth vessel Aurora and a Zarthian battle group. We must acknowledge that our earlier assessment of Earth's technological capabilities was premature. Supreme Admiral Zarthok was conspicuously absent, his empire now scrambling to contain the wave of rebellions spreading throughout their territory. In light of these developments," continued the Arthurian, "the Council proposes a reassessment of Earth's status within the Alliance defense structure. Commander Byrne, Would you be willing to share insights from your vessel's innovative technologies with the Allied Fleet Command? Before Byrne could respond, Ambassador Lee interjected smoothly, Earth is, of course, eager to contribute to our collective security. However, the specifics of technology sharing would require careful negotiation to ensure mutual benefit. The political dance had begun anew, but this time with Earth holding considerably more leverage. As the session continued, Commander Byrne found herself the center of attention from representatives who had previously ignored her existence. Delegations from a dozen worlds approached her with questions about the Aurora's capabilities and proposals for joint exercises. In a quiet moment, Admiral Cruz joined Byrne at a viewport overlooking the station's docking bays, where the Aurora rested proudly alongside vessels from across the galaxy. "Well done, Commander," Cruz said quietly. "You've accomplished more for Earth standing in a single mission than years of diplomatic efforts." Byrne nodded, watching as a procession of Allied ships passed by in formation, a ceremonial acknowledgement of the Aurora's achievement. The ship performed beyond expectations, but it's the crew that deserves the credit. Dr. Morgan's wave disruptor, Zhang's quantum armor, Kim's targeting precision, each component worked in perfect harmony. That's what the Zarthians failed to understand, Cruz observed. They saw a collection of primitive technologies. They didn't recognize the innovation in how those technologies were integrated. Their arrogance blinded them, Byrne agreed. They've dominated for so long, they've forgotten how to adapt. A notification chimed on Cruz's comm device. The Supreme Council is reconvening. They're voting on Earth's petition for expanded patrol responsibilities. Byrne smiled. I suspect the outcome will be different this time. Indeed, the vote was overwhelmingly in Earth's favor. The delegation that had been mocked and dismissed was now being courted by species that had previously considered humans barely worth acknowledging. As the formal proceedings concluded, Commander Byrne found herself alone on an observation deck, watching as a fleet of Earth vessels, summoned in the wake of the Aurora's victory, arrived at Nexus Prime. Alongside them flew ships from worlds that had declared themselves allies of Earth, many of them former Zarthian client states, seeking protection from imperial reprisal. The sight filled her with quiet pride. The Aurora had been designed not merely as a weapon of war, but as a statement of human ingenuity, a declaration that Earth would forge its own path among the stars, not merely imitate the established powers. In defying conventional wisdom and embracing revolutionary design principles, they had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. More importantly, they had inspired others to question the dominance of empires that ruled through fear rather than respect. Lieutenant Reyes joined her at the viewport. Transmission from Earth. Commander. They're commissioning a full fleet of Aurora-class vessels. You've been promoted to fleet captain, with authority to oversee the program. Byrne nodded, watching as the assembled ships performed a ceremonial flyby. Ensure that Dr. Morgan, Chief Zhang, Major Kim, and all the senior officers receive appropriate recognition. This victory belongs to all of us. Already done, Commander, or should I say Captain. As Reyes departed, Byrne remained at the viewport, contemplating the future. The Zarthians would not accept their humiliation quietly. Emperor Valaris was already gathering his forces, preparing to reassert his dominance. The coming conflict would test not only the Aurora's technology, but the resolve of Earth and its newfound allies. Yet, for this moment, watching the Allied fleet move in perfect formation against the backdrop of stars, Byrne allowed herself to feel hope. The Aurora had proven that innovation could triumph over tradition, that courage could overcome arrogance, that a single act of defiance could inspire a galaxy. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Earth would face them not as supplicants begging for acceptance, but as equals worthy of respect. And if any would-be conquerors dared to mock their efforts again, well, they had demonstrated quite clearly what happened to those who underestimated Earth's resolve. In the vastness of space, the alliance of free worlds continued to grow, united not by fear of punishment, but by the shared belief in a future where innovation and cooperation would triumph over domination and control. It was a new dawn for the galaxy, one sparked by a single prototype warship that dared to be different. The Zarthians had mocked Earth's vessel, calling it primitive and laughable. Now, as their empire crumbled beneath the weight of rebellion and their fleet limped home in disgrace, they had learned a painful lesson. Those who dare mock Earth shall indeed suffer the consequences. Lieutenant Commander Voss approached Byrne, a datapad in hand. "Captain, we've received intelligence that the Zarthians are already redesigning their fleet to counter our technology. They're adapting." Byrne smiled. "Good. So are we." She gestured toward the Earthships in formation. The Aurora was just the beginning. Tell Dr. Morgan to proceed with the next phase of quantum integration. The Zarthians think they've seen Earth's best technology. Her eyes gleamed with determination. "They haven't seen anything yet." As news of the Aurora's victory spread throughout the galaxy, the legend grew with each retelling. On countless worlds, beings gathered to hear tales of the Earthship that had humbled an empire. Children played with toy models of the Aurora, dreaming of adventures among the stars. Poets composed epics, celebrating the triumph of innovation over tradition. And in the halls of power across the galaxy, diplomats and military strategists alike were forced to reconsider their assumptions about the species they had so recently dismissed as upstarts. The humans had proven themselves not merely capable of participating in galactic affairs, but of fundamentally changing them. For Commander, now Captain, Lana Byrne, this was only the first step in a longer journey. As she watched the Allied fleet disperse to their various missions, she knew that the true challenge lay ahead. Not merely winning a battle, but building a lasting peace based on mutual respect rather than fear and domination. It would not be easy. The Zarthians would return, stronger and more determined. Other powers would test Earth's resolve and capabilities. But for now, standing on the observation deck of Nexus Prime, with the Aurora visible in the distance, Byrne allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They had been mocked, dismissed, and underestimated, and they had proven their critics wrong in the most emphatic way possible. Whatever the future held, the galaxy would never again make the mistake of underestimating Earth or its innovative spirit. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.